folks. Welcome to Cannabis Pros and Marketing Masters, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the cannabis industry's most influential brands and the talented minds behind them. I'm Nigel Despinasse, your host, and today we're thrilled to be joined by Casey Santana and Isabella DeChard, true experts in the field of marketing. These two are bringing a bevy of experience from a whole host of different parts of our industry. They wear all sorts of hats, not just the one Casey has on right now. And so over the course of our conversation, we're going to go into different strategies, challenges, and insights that these two have on kind of everything, right? Whether it's SEO, community engagement, podcasting, workshops, what have you. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, marketing professional, or just simply fascinated by the cannabis industry, you're in for a treat. So I don't want to waste any time with this. I'm going to jump in. We're so excited to have you guys. This was a conversation I was personally really excited for. Give us a little bit of an intro about you guys, your background, what you do, the role that cannabis plays in your professional and personal lives, whatever you're free to give.
Bella, did you want to go first?
Sorry, I'm gonna go Bella first, and then we'll go Casey. Sorry.
Sure. No, that's fine. Thank you for having us, Nigel, and the Beard Bros team. I'm Isabella, but I also go by Bella. It's half the syllables for us stoners. And I call myself a creative cannabis human. I do everything from copywriting, a little bit of graphic design. I work in SEO and CRM marketing strategy at the moment, and I have been helping behind the scenes with the marketing efforts for this year's Emerald Cup.
All right. Casey, floor is to you.
Casey Santana here. I am the host and founder of Chiefah Entertainment. I originally started doing events, and that slowly transitioned into just becoming a virtual host for the Chamber of Commerce, also a member there. And then now I just basically manage my podcast, and I have been so happy and just blessed to be able to be in this community. Couple years ago, I became an Emerald Cup judge. Since then, I've been a continuous third-time pre-roll judge. So got a lot of exposure of just understanding the plant and having respect for, the roots of the culture from this plant. With that, I've kind of just learned to love marketing. As you know, in today's world, social media marketing can be several different aspects of, YouTube, understanding the different platforms from LinkedIn to Instagram. So that's kind of been the things that I've been diving into to kind of hone in as far as some services I could be an expert on and to speak on, just because I personally have used it and grown my own personal brand by using those strategies. So since then, I got the opportunity to work with Miss Bella to also help with the marketing efforts, primarily with social media and graphics for the Emerald Cup this year.
Awesome. Right on. And yeah, you guys have both had like a huge role in the Emerald Cup and kind of disseminating what the image is, how everything's going. I mean, it's a really, really well-known cannabis cup that has been in our industry for, I can't even tell you, I mean, decades.
20 years.
Kind of give us 20 years, exactly. Boom, decades, 2 decades, couple of decades. Give us a look behind the curtain. Like, what are you guys doing to kind of bring this event to life? Kind of shine some light on that.
Yeah, well, like you said, Nigel, it's many hats, but I think it's safe to say that's pretty much the norm in a lot of cannabis industry and the many roles and different hats people have to wear. So when it comes to marketing, that's a huge umbrella, right? And especially for an in-person event at this size and with this, brand like the Emerald Cup. So Casey and I worked super closely together on a lot of marketing efforts with media partnerships, social media, digital advertisement and marketing outreach, just everything in between. But I think what made it even more fun was we had known each other in the past, and knowing the work and relationship we had individually with each other, and just getting to like join those efforts together, and knowing like the skills that Casey brought to the table and then what I could bring as well. I just think that was my favorite part of the experience, really.
I love that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
I have to echo that. It was an opportunity to really just see Bella in her own light. And not only that, just I respect her for who she is as a woman in this space and for everything that she does. And it's not always easy, as we all know, to collaborate with people in the industry, even out of the industry. I come with, I didn't mention this, but primarily build my career in corporate banking. And so the background that me and her have as far as being able to be, she's focused on the CEO or SEO things. She's a great writer. I'm more of the graphic designer and getting the, distribution out on the different platforms, but putting the two skill sets just offset each other. And we were just so happy that this one opportunity brought us together, but able to actually identify like, hell, we actually are quite the force together. And so, not to put any threats out there, but we really do amazing work, and we're really efficient in as far as what we do and what we're, preaching as far as what we can do.
Love that. And from my perspective, right, you guys have this like unique synergy to the both of you where Bella comes from this like killer SEO, like capturing intent type of place, and you are big in the podcast community engagement end of things. So it's like this awesome people funnel that you guys have where it's this perfect marriage of skills that like really gets people like completely through understanding, having awareness, and engaging them in whatever you're working on. So that like when I was reading about your guys' backgrounds and then already knowing what you guys do, it just seemed like a perfect fit, honestly. So very cool that you guys are bringing both of your backgrounds and already having a relationship with one another to the table.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian Bussey. He made the magic happen.
Yeah. And it was at Harvest Ball. I think I was thinking the other day, I think it was like during E40 or something.
That was first time, yeah, we met in person. Yeah. We were also Wax Snacks influencers, and we were I think we did like virtual calls. And so it was exciting for us to just like grow this far.
I love that. The coolest part, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, the coolest part I think too is our backgrounds aside from cannabis. Like Casey said, she had the banking background that she came from work-wise, and then I had done some work at some music and art festivals. So it was kind of cool to hear like we both had insight from other industries too that we could, bring to the table for this event. So yeah, it reminds me that this is still a new industry in a way, and we all come from something else before this, right? So it's always cool to apply that to our current work when we can.
Totally agree.
Not to cut you off, Nigel, but I was going to say, and to that point, what I was going to say as well is that I think the thing that worked for me and Bella is that we both have alignment as far as understanding the culture and having respect for the roots and the people on all levels, being that we're so diverse in our networks. And I think that really allowed us to like, amplify the work that we do, just having that understanding in the culture. And I know Beard Bros, we are big about talking about that. It's just something that you have to understand that there's no policy and procedures for that. It's just a matter of really understanding, everybody's place and being able to be of service to everybody. And that was really fun to do together as far as highlighting.
Absolutely. Yeah. This industry emerged from a place where there was no policy except respect. So it's, you know what I mean? If you weren't respecting people, you weren't getting business done. So I think it's a interesting thing because when you come from multidisciplinary backgrounds and kind of bring your own specific lens to a different industry, you can kind of see not history repeat itself, so to say, but you can see different threads that existed in different industries in different places, and you know how to move with those, so like kind of talking to both of y'all's backgrounds, what do you guys see that comes from where you previously worked, and like what's working from that now, I guess to say, within cannabis?
Well, I will say, obviously we talked about, understanding the culture. And to that point, since it's marketing that we want to highlight, is we all know relationships. Relationships are key. And no matter how much, you say that maybe it's still, there's other forms of marketing that, in person, those relationships that you're having one-on-one conversations on a weekly basis just to tap in, that's just really important. And I learned that from being a business development officer for the bank. Obviously, you're they're your babies, you're taking care of their needs, and you're not just providing things to them so that you're able to have the upper hand. It's always to figure out what they need, how you can collaborate, how you can work together. And I think when you're genuine about it and your intentions are real in this industry, people can sniff it out. And if you don't nurture those relationships, it's really hard to go back to them and ask them for your sponsorship, ask them to help you support this particular event if you haven't kind of reciprocated this same level of, relationship bonding, or even taking the time to, have support them in the same way, I should say. So for me, I think the big thing was always, I'm huge on communication, and your network is basically your worth. You hear it, it's a cliche thing, but the more in events that you can get out to, I always harp how important that is, because that's the real conversations, and then also the follow through and making sure you follow up on these. Obviously, we meet tons of people when we go to these events, and we're not going to be able to align with everybody, but the ones that do align with your branding, if there's a way to collaborate, because I think right now the market is suffering, that is the best way we can actually elevate as a whole. So for me, it's always about relationship and really just like nurturing the ones that align with your brand for as far as marketing, because that can just trickle into different buckets when it comes to marketing and how to brand yourself as far as positioning as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where, a thread of across, all three of the shows that we've done so far for this, regardless of what type of marketing people engage in, the one thing that's ubiquitous is that a thread of genuineness has to go through anything that you do, because like you said, people smell that out immediately. The minute that you have ulterior motives, you're trying to like you said, gain the upper hand on things, or you're not really out there trying to build the pie in general and just make your slice the biggest. Like it's going to blow up in your face.
Yeah.
So what about you, Bella?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. And I'm sitting here thinking like, I have such a big background before this, I guess. I've just always liked to mix it up and learn something new. So I was definitely for the longest an actress and performing arts. I got a BFA in acting a while ago in college. And so I'm trying to think from there, like it's all a little bit personal for me, but that was really like what introduced my personal relationship with cannabis and the plant was the experience and effects it had on me. And so when I think about the work I do now, whether it's like, small local commercials around here or helping, work at a music festival, I really think about the overall experience that we want to provide to, let's say in this case, the customer. So in the work I'm doing today, if I'm working with a dispensary, okay, this customer just bought a product. Now, how can we invite them in for another experience, or for them to share what their thoughts, and how can I create that into an email campaign or a blog to share like how to enhance your experience by, like trying this tip and trick for how to consume. And there's just so many different, ways to go about it. And I think that's why I've been really drawn into working in this industry, aside from like the personal passion and connection I have with the plant, is because of the curiosity. It's because of the research that we need to do. It's because of the questions being asked. And there's just so much ahead of us. And I just see it as like uncharted waters. And it's a challenge that I'm always determined to take on every day, even when it's really difficult.
Yes. And sometimes it bites, man. I mean, sometimes it is the worst. I think, we have these types of things where you have, 280E that's really affecting essentially everyone, right? Because it creates this tax overregulation and constriction of businesses that emanates out all the way to ancillary businesses. And it's one of those things where nobody has money for anything right now. And I'm sure both of you guys can attest to that, where like every dollar matters the most for businesses. So, oftentimes I'll have conversations with people and, they don't have money for something, but it's a matter of understanding, okay, well, where are you putting your money now? And like, how is it making a difference for you? Because, if you have shoestring budgets, then that spells a need for creativity in my mind, right? You have to understand what maximizes your dollar. So like with that, what are you guys seeing as like or what do you guys are viewing as a way for people to navigate these channels? I know you guys are both involved heavily in like social marketing, and I feel like that's a really organic, low cost way to get involved with your actual tribe and the people who are engaged with you know. So please take the floor. One of you guys.
Well, I was going to say too that Gary Vee talks about it. Use the shit out of it. It's fucking free marketing. So why not use it? To that point, it's really hard to figure out which one is more beneficial to your brand because it's going to depend on the demographic in your audience. And if you're a brand that's not taking the time to even look at that data, you're looking at several layers of, just a lack of strategy for the most part. And at that point, it's a loss for that brand. So though there's no money, I think there's still ways you can market yourself that would be beneficial. Like you said, social media is free. You can use LinkedIn now. Personally, people sleep on LinkedIn, in my opinion, when it comes to the cannabis space. But I love LinkedIn. I have found I always say, if you're looking to get right to the source of a brand, LinkedIn's the place to go to. Instagram is fun. And the more I study the platforms, I can understand why it can be overwhelming for somebody who may be an operator, even, somebody that has a cultivation center or distributor. That they don't have the time to put that energy into studying the marketing strategy, especially when we're in an industry that gets a lot of shadow banning and censorship. So there's so many different layers to when it comes to marketing. And I think you just got to figure out as a brand where your bucks are going and where your energy is going, like you had said, and figure out maybe you get one person on the team or two people that, have enough of a diverse background that can project and distribute. And then you also have people nowadays that are very handy with AI. And I know a lot of people aren't fans of AI, but it's here. And the more that people get comfortable with using it, it's a tool to elevate their brand, making you more, time efficient and saving you money at the end of the day. And every fucking company business owner wants that. So to me, I think there's just several layers to that. But I think if they use it strategically, especially the free platforms, then they can do marketing. And to the second half of that is there's a lot of, and I'm just going to put it out there because I'm in the field and I've experienced this myself, is that some brands want to pay with weed as far as like, can you manage the page? And I'll give you, you come through, take a couple pictures. There's so much more to marketing than that. And I think there's still, that's an educational component that people need to learn. And so, I'm excited to, I'm just going to say it out here, but I have been blessed to work with Beard Bros now as the Director of Business Development. And I'm going to help bring that to the forefront, whether it's understanding, the brands, wherever they are in their position in the place, where how much we're able to elevate their game, being how long Beard Bros have been in this and how successful they are and how far their reach can go. That's important. And if they start with solid people to build that foundation, that brand can go really far with the little that they have, especially when they're working with people that understand the culture and the people in the space. So I'll hand it to Bella. But yeah, I think there's ways to get around it. It's tough, but it's definitely a heavy, it's like an important factor that you would be sleeping on, especially in this space, because to be mainstream, it's already hard to be seen. So why not use these platforms that are slowly, allowing us to use our voice in the way we want to?
Absolutely.
Sorry, that was a lot, but.
No, absolutely, Casey. That's so spot on. And I just have to say, like you yourself and the way you market yourself on Instagram and LinkedIn, like you are the best example of how to utilize that platform for your personal, self and brand. And so Beard Bros is so lucky to have you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited.
But like to echo what you said, really, it's, social media is a big marketing tool no matter the industry, but in cannabis, censorship is a huge hurdle. So it's like you kind of do have to like put your foot on the gas a little bit harder and like, work a little bit harder to get over that hill. But it like once you do and you find the secret sauce and the way it works for you, like you can really like expand your reach and audience and like really gain your following. And so that's something that I'm trying to help and support a lot with clients as well. But something else I see a lot to bring up the educational element is really just in simple, it can just be in the most like simple elements of like a dispensary website. I'm just really personally kind of getting tired of reading about how top quality the flower is. I want to know a little bit more. I want to know what it smells like when you open it up the first time. I want to know like the second aroma that you smell after that. Like I want to know the nitty gritty details. And I think dispensaries and brands are really missing out on not like being more specific about their product descriptions. And I think you have to remember a lot of us are working and immersed heads down in cannabis 24/7, but you have to like think about the eyes and perspective of someone who is seeing this for the first time. They're not going to know what the bract or a calyx is or but the pistils are this color. Like we need to kind of lay it out and like in educational terms where we're still like, you know, accurately promoting the plant, but in a way that's going to like encourage their curiosity and get them to really know what they're buying or what's in store. I hope that makes sense, but I really have just been seeing it a lot lately where it's just the copy and paste product descriptions and something like that. You know, if I'm going to buy something, like, you know, add some spice to it. And if you're watching this, you know, let's work together. I can do that for you.
Yes. It's the truth. It's like Amazon product descriptions, right? Like it makes all of the type of difference when I'm looking at something and you're giving me vivid understanding details of like how I'm going to use this, what it does for me. And like, I mean, that's like key component of copywriting, right? You want to give as much detail so that somebody can literally view this in their mind as much as possible. And you know, if everyone's just talking about how fire their flower is, then it's pretty much just, you know, like New York, everyone's got the best pizza in the whole world and someone's lying. That's all I'm saying. You know, not everyone can have the best flower in the state.
No, but then also I can counter that and say that, you know, maybe you smoke strain B and feel a certain way and I smoke the same strain and feel a different way. And so if that's the case, I understand a lot of these dispensaries, brands, they shy away from discussing that because they don't want to maybe be held liable. Well, why did I fall asleep when I was supposed to be, you know, doing a mile run or whatever? But let's talk about it. Let's discuss how it's not a one size fits all product. And I think that's what makes cannabis so unique that way. But if we never talk about it, we never know. And then it's just a giant question mark.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Yeah, and we all know effects are different for everybody. So if they're just writing sleepy, happy, I mean, that may not be the fact for somebody. You know, more terpene talk, understanding how to label things, and again, marketing is going to trickle into your packaging and knowing, you know, how the descriptors are. That's why I can appreciate also Bella's a ganja year. And understanding, like what you were saying, the consumer is not going to know what pistols are. And some of them don't care to even get that deep. However, there are people who are maybe like, you know, elders that need to not get just a high THC and would like to understand the terpenes that maybe there are not normally out there on a regular basis, just giving them more like, I think Bella touched on this several times when she explained the experience of a shopper trickles all the way down into marketing. And so, you know, brands need to keep that in mind as well, as far as when they do their digital advertising in any of their labels. And I know we already have riffraff in our labels in our industry, but so long, you know, you're within those guidelines, but you know, I think it's
for sure.
To keep that in mind.
Yeah, you've got to meet your consumer where they're at. And I think when you're around people like us who live in weed and like have our heads in the turkey bag, like it's one of those things where you're trying to speak to us and that's not really like who you're meeting. Like and you know, I know there's enough talk about the soccer moms and like the kind of curious customer and stuff like that, but Casey said that's me.
I'm a mom too. I'm your every 2-ouncer, or is that we're allowed to take an ounce out the dispensary? But I'll tell you, people be sleeping on their Canna moms. They are your regular customers, and we want to see, the 14s, the 28s, but I want variety. And the other thing is, we could talk about the shelving when it comes to stuff like that. I think there's so much education needed even for storing cannabis the right way. So I mean, the moms, we love our cannabis. The drinks are coming out now, so cannabis is the thing, like they say, sober Cali, which I love to see.
I love it. So kind of shifting more towards something in terms of a big theme in our industry right now is that, we have these whole factions of hemp versus cannabis popping up, a hemp industry versus a cannabis industry, everything that's going on in Florida with, DeSantis kind of striking down people trying to come after their hemp industry. Bella, you can speak to that for sure. I know you're out in Tampa. I kind of want to get your guys' perspective on what it looks like to navigate those like ever-changing waters, because hemp advertising and marketing isn't going to be held to the same standard necessarily that dispensaries, distros, or anything like that are held to. So what are you guys seeing in terms of like the changing landscape for hemp marketing and cannabis marketing as it goes? I know that was a big curveball, so I apologize.
Yeah, let's let Bella, since she's in Florida, maybe you're seeing something else. But
there's so much to say there. Okay, but I will say this: the other night, because I am in Florida, it's not like I can just walk in unless I have a medical card to purchase cannabis, and I don't ever get advertisements, nothing really online or social media either. And then the other day, I saw an Instagram ad for like a tonic elixir, and it looked like a gin bottle. It was really beautiful and everything, but nothing. And I knew, because I see stuff like this for work all the time, and I knew it was cannabis, but I was looking for like where it would say that. And I'm searching the ad, searching it. And so I figured out the loophole and how they were able to advertise. And they said 5 milligrams of plant magic, they called it. And I thought that was funny. So and because of that plant magic, I was assuming, because of reading and breathing cannabis and hemp every day, that is what it was about. But really, that could be like really mysterious for someone. But the point I'm trying to make is, so that is the difference I'm seeing. Whether that was a hemp-based product or a cannabis-based product, I'm not quite sure. But that is just like a loophole that I'm having to see around here lately. But as far as being in Florida, it is a huge year. With Amendment 3 for adult use cannabis in the state of Florida. It will be on the ballot in November. And it's weird times, man. I've wrote a few articles, and Beard Bros always, for Beard Bros, and you all always do a great job covering the latest updates in Florida, because there are many. But it basically boils down to, I'm seeing like the hemp and cannabis industry kind of like, there's some tensions brewing in the state of Florida, because the governor, is basically pro hemp and supporting and funding, that campaign, and then not really for recreational cannabis, on top of him giving some false claims about what it would do to the city and people. And so because of that, it's really strange. And so walking down the street, there's like a main strip in Tampa where you can, go to a bar, and I see smoke shops, and they all say no medical license needed. You can come in, and it's all Delta 8, Delta 9. It's all hemp-based stuff, but I could pay $5 and take a dab of Delta 8 if I wanted. And it's weird. And I know it's not like this in every market. And I can just rant about all day, really, Nigel. I just don't know what's going to happen until November.
And that's what I'm wondering, right? Because I think that's going to be this like weird power struggle that'll create a vacuum for things. And it seems like hemp has kind of risen up in some of those ways. Because I'm in Louisiana right now, and it's kind of similar. There's 5 dispensaries around the whole state. There's not a whole lot of providers. And every smoke shop that you see, if you walk in, they pretty much have like a dispensary backing behind the counter where you can get edibles, you can get drinks, you can get pre-rolls, you can get flour. It's a very, very weird time because you don't know. There's the good part about the regulatory bodies in our industry for the most part is that you have a lot of transparency. With a lot of these things, I couldn't tell you who a Delta 9 hemp grower is. I couldn't tell you where it comes from, and I couldn't tell you what panel it's gotten tested with. So it's definitely one of those things where I want everyone to have access to weed, and I want people to be able to build brands in places that aren't the nicest to our favorite plant. But it's very difficult to navigate these waters as a consumer and as somebody who wants to be out in the market building a brand. What do you think, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, those are solid points. I think, there was a couple people going around saying 5 milligrams was the magic number for these states for the hot CBD. And I thought that's interesting. I think it's a loophole, obviously. And I don't know if the people who are in politics or, DeSantis understands. And that's where there's so much lack still when it comes to anybody in those seats up there understanding this plant is still a big factor to them. To me, understanding the science of it. Recently I had the pleasure of having Dr. Mark Lewis. He's a flower judge, and he's also the inventor of phytofacts. We were talking about going deeper than just putting, happy in the moods of certain strains and really understanding terpenes. Phytofacts breaks that down in so many different levels. If we could present that to these people, maybe they would understand, the difference between this Apple Mac conversation that we're having. Which is it's a lack of education. And I just can't say that enough, but yeah, it's an interesting
I totally,
time.
utterly, absolutely agree. I got to participate 2 years ago in NCIA's lobby days. And so they send people from National Cannabis Industry Association everywhere, gets to send one representative, and you go and talk to lawmakers about what big pressing issue our industry faces. And so I got to go stop and talk to 4 different Congress people's offices about safe banking. And it's actually crazy when you talk to people and they have no idea, they've made up their mind for the most part on a lot of things. Some of them even hold beliefs different to what they're advocating. They're just like, I can't get reelected if I vote for weed. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know what to say to that. But it is one of those things where education.
Yeah. I was going to say,
so
things are coming around, especially if we give them the light. I work with a lot of veteran organizations, and they're starting to understand how beneficial it is for them to have safe access to good quality herb, I should say. You like you were saying, you don't know some of those D9 brands that you're seeing. And again, we want to get quality out there. It's a disservice to our community and to people who are interested of the plant, not giving them quality actual flowers. And so it's interesting. I also found out that when the feds do their research on weed, it's weed that they grow themselves, and we all know that's probably not
a facility in Mississippi, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like isn't that a conflict of interest? But it's a very interesting time, and I think again it comes down to education.
Yeah, education, and there's just such a huge stigma still. Like you said, elected officials are afraid to vote or be pro because of how it would, affect their look, reputation, campaign. One of my best friends, she's like, I love what you post on LinkedIn, but I can't like it because my coworkers will see. And it's so crazy to me. And so things like that, I understand there's still consequences for people out there, right? There's still people that are behind bars, incarcerated for a plant. And so it's this really heavy limbo we're in right now. And so I am just all for pushing the boundaries, pushing it as much as we can, just to, respectfully, just to promote the safety and quality. Because I'm telling you, down here, what you get, that $5 D9 dab
is, I don't know where it's coming from, and that cannot be acceptable.
Bella needs to go in there with her magnifying glass. She's like, let me assess this before I buy it.
Let me see the COA. Was this grown, or just, I don't know.
Out of here.
It's just about encouraging people to start asking those questions too.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is it's hard to have people, because I feel like, especially in these states where there isn't a big move in terms of legalization yet, it's hard because the most educated people are going to be people who are probably working in cannabis, and it's not going to be the people who are consumers of it, because they just want to get high. It's the same thing. Yeah. And sorry if that's a little crude to put it, but like, people are looking to like have access to cannabis in some regard. And so like the next move, if they can't have, is going to be the next best thing, which is going to be these different products. So it's hard to strike a balance of saying like, you shouldn't do that, but you should ask the right questions when there's not enough education out there for them. But we're all trying to constantly, like you said, push the envelope, educate more, and bring more to the masses. A lot of it, I feel like, just tends to be inside of our weed bubble,
Yeah, and it's hard to get out of that sometimes, it really, and that's why it's like, talk to people not in cannabis sometimes. And I mean, not that I'm saying you don't, but it's just like, because it's interesting to hear the curiosities out there.
Totally agree. And there's not, as far as lawmakers go, right? Like I said, our industry is getting strangled from the inside out, right? So like, the people who originally cause all of our industry to move are growers, extractors, retailers, and all of these people are subjected to these insane amount of taxes that don't allow them to spend any money outside of that, because they have to stay alive. So then you go and you look at things like, enlisting the help of lobbyists and things like that to help advocate our message. And we can't even do that because we don't have money. And so the only people who do tend to are the people who try to shape our narrative, which, like, we're not going to name any names, but I feel like we all know what we're talking about. The only people who do have money to be able to enroll lobbyists. So yeah, it's one of those things where we're all our best advocate of this industry, but it takes a lot to go outside of what our bubble is that we experience day to day, and like try to give some information to people who are looking for it.
Yeah. And I will say, I always say it on my show, or anytime we're on a platform, is this is why we have these open conversations and do these podcasts or even lives or panels. It's so that we can get this out, and hopefully someone comes across it or shares it. And maybe you send a, hey mom, or hey dad, hey grandpa, I was on this show. And it's such a light push. You never want to be the one that's like shoving it in their face. You could only say it so many times. With my cultural background, being Filipino and Hispanic, I get two different vibes from each side. And so sometimes it's just like, check this podcast out, depending on who I'm talking to. But I think these open conversations is also a good way to allow the non-consumers who are like dead deep. We enjoyed going through the roots of our industry and finding out what juice is happening here. But like you said, not somebody who's just kind of curious, or, just somebody who decided to start, dabbling with weed. And so I think, so long we continue to do our work and we love it, there's people out like us ready to keep fighting the fight.
Totally agree. And I think there is no one who's a better ambassador fighting that fight than you two. So I truly do appreciate you guys coming on here. Could you guys give some of the viewers where they can find you guys?
Yes, you can find me. I have a website, IsabellaDeChard.com. And I also have an art brand I started many moons ago called Bitchy Hippie. On Instagram, it's Bitchy Hippie without the I in bitch because censorship. But I started that to be a creative space to promote cannabis and plant education, break the negative stigma with funky graphic design and art. It's evolved into me doing blog writing, educational and branding content, and then SEO and CRM strategy for the cannabis industry over the years. So follow me, Bitchy Hippie on Instagram, and let's get creative.
Love it. Casey, how about you?
Casey Santana. You can find me on LinkedIn. Our YouTube channel is Chiefah Entertainment, or actually it's Chiefah Entertainment Podcast. You probably have to type that all out, but you could actually just swing over there to Instagram and it'll shoot you over to that. There will be a link there for YouTube. That is Chiefah_ENT. And you could also see my personal account on there under K_Chiefah. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Love it. Check them out, you guys. Subscribe to here. And you can reach me on most socials at Nigel_Ds or Nigel Despinasse. So thank you guys so much again for coming out. This has been so great. And love to see you guys crush it. Also, welcome to the team, Casey.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'll see you guys out on the floor.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Of course.